I still remember the smell of the lab that morning. Sharp alcohol, cold metal, and that faint sweetness from the chemical storage room that always made my head feel a little light. I was late again, running down the hall with my backpack half open, thinking I'd slip into class quietly like I always did. But she was waiting for me. Miss Aria Morgan. My science teacher. Beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Glasses perched perfectly, hair in a messy bun that somehow looked intentional, and the kind of stare that made you forget to blink. She didn't yell. She didn't even raise her voice. She just said, "Stay after class. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. I knew I was in trouble, but I had no idea how bad it was about to get. When everyone left, she folded her arms and leaned against the lab table like she owned the universe. "You've missed 3 practicals, and you bombed the last 2 quizzes. I can't let you fail," she said. "So congratulations, you're my assistant for the next month." "What? Miss, that's not fair." Her eyebrow lifted. "Fair? You want fair? Then pass your exams. Since you can't, you'll learn the hard way." I opened my mouth to argue, but she cut me off. "Every morning, every afternoon, and every experiment I say, clear." I nodded, heart sinking. But then she added something that didn't make sense at the time. Something that would change my life completely. "And you'll follow all instructions. No matter what they are." Her eyes held mine for a silent beat too long. I didn't know she meant literally everything. I didn't know I was about to become her experiment. And I definitely didn't know she would drag me into a world I never imagined myself in. The first day started normal. Lab tables, notebooks, equipment. She handed me gloves, goggles, and a little smile. "You're going to love this month," she said softly. "Whether you want to or not." I laughed awkwardly. She didn't. By the second day, she was measuring my reactions. My pulse, my attention, the way I followed instructions. By the third, she was adjusting my posture, my voice, correcting how I walked in the lab. "More delicate," she'd say. "Hands softer. Slow down your steps. Try again, no, like this." I started noticing she was watching me longer than she watched anyone else. By the end of the first week, she brought out a sealed box. "What's that?" I asked. She smiled in that slow, dangerous way. "Your new assistant uniform." My throat went dry. I had a bad feeling, one that made my heartbeat trip over itself. When she opened the box, I froze. It wasn't a lab coat. It wasn't anything I expected. It was a soft white blouse, a fitted skirt, stockings, even a pair of delicate flats. "Miss, that's for girls." "No," she said, stepping closer. "It's for my assistant." She looked at me like she was testing more than chemicals, like she was testing me. "I'm not wearing that," I whispered. She leaned in until her breath touched my ear. "You agreed to follow every instruction." Her voice was soft, too soft. "This is part of the experiment." My heart hammered. My face burned. My palms shook. I didn't understand what she wanted from me, why she chose me, why her gaze lingered on me like she was peeling me open layer by layer. I don't know why I didn't walk out. I don't know why I didn't tell the principal. I don't know why a part of me stayed frozen, curious, terrified, confused. Maybe because a tiny part of me wondered what she saw in me that I didn't. Then she said something that made my knees go weak. "If you trust me, you'll put it on." I kept thinking I'd say no. That I'd walk away. That I'd refuse the insane request of dressing like a girl just because my teacher demanded it. But somehow, in that quiet, sterile lab, with her standing so close, I didn't. I took the clothes. My fingers trembled so violently I could barely hold the fabric. She guided me to the tiny lab bathroom. "Go change," she said gently. "I can't, miss, this is humiliating." Her voice softened even more. "It's only humiliating if you think it is. Trust the experiment." That word, experiment, echoed in my skull like a bell. Inside the bathroom, I stared at myself in the mirror. The blouse looked impossibly soft. The skirt felt like it belonged to another world entirely. I shouldn't have done it. But I did. First the stockings. My legs looked unfamiliar, smoother somehow under the sheer fabric. Then the skirt. Snug around my hips, hugging me in a way nothing I'd worn ever had. Then the blouse, delicate light, sitting so perfectly against my skin it felt intentional. When I stepped out, Miss Morgan stared at me with a kind of fascinated precision. "Turn around," she said. My face was so red it was probably glowing. But I turned. Her breath caught. It was subtle, but I heard it. "Perfect," she murmured. "Perfect." Why did that word make my heart jump? But embarrassment hit like fire when the classroom door suddenly clicked. 2 students entered. I froze. Miss Morgan didn't move. Their eyes widened. One whispered, "Is that him?" Miss Morgan calmly stepped behind me, placing her hands on my shoulders. "He's my assistant," she said firmly. "His appearance is part of my ongoing study. If anyone mocks him, they'll answer to me." My heart was racing so hard I felt dizzy. They stared longer than I could handle, my legs trembling in those stupid stockings. That was just the beginning. The days got worse. Whispers followed me everywhere. Why is he dressed like that? Is the teacher making him? No way he agreed to that. Does he like it? The question I feared most was the one that hit me the hardest. Why does he look kind of cute? I hated how my stomach fluttered hearing that. I hated that part of me didn't hate it. Miss Morgan made everything harder. She corrected how I walked, smaller steps. How I talked, softer voice. How I carried equipment, wrist loose. Don't grip like you're fighting it. She styled my hair one morning because she said the messy look didn't suit my new aesthetic. My friends didn't recognize me. My teachers stared. I avoided eye contact, kept my head down, hid behind my textbooks. But the strange part? Miss Morgan never looked away. Not once. Every day her eyes followed me, not with judgment, but with something deeper. Curiosity. Intensity. Possession. "You're progressing faster than I expected," she told me one afternoon as I nervously labeled beakers in my skirt. "Progressing?" I echoed. She stepped behind me, adjusting my posture again, hands lingering on my waist a second too long. "Yes," she whispered. "Into the version of yourself you've never allowed to exist." The words hit me like a spark. Dangerous. Tempting. Terrifying. What if I don't want this? I whispered. She leaned closer. "Then why haven't you stopped me?" I didn't have an answer. I didn't plan to experiment. I didn't plan to explore anything she was pushing me toward. But once you see yourself in a mirror differently, it sticks. I found myself staying late after class, pretending to clean the lab, secretly watching how Miss Morgan moved, graceful, deliberate, confident. Her posture. Her hands. Her voice. Something about it made me want to understand. At home, I locked my bedroom door for the first time in months. I stared at myself. I shouldn't have tried anything. But I did. I mimicked the way she told me to walk. Heels together, steps soft, controlled. It felt strange. But strangely good. Then came the blouse she gave me, just in case you ever want to practice between sessions. Why did I even bring it home? I slipped it on. My breath caught. My body looked different. Not just girly, something else. Something softer, more aligned, almost natural. I shouldn't have tried the skirt. I did anyway. The mirror didn't show a joke. It didn't show humiliation. It showed possibility. Heat flushed through me. Part embarrassment, part curiosity, part something I didn't have a name for yet. I practiced everything Miss Morgan taught me. Hand movements. Posture. Voice softening. Even the subtle tilt of the head she always corrected. Hours passed without me noticing. For the first time, I didn't feel like a mistake. I felt like something unfolding. The next day at school, Miss Morgan looked at me sharply the moment I walked in. "You practiced," she said. I froze. "How do you?" She touched my wrist lightly. "I can see it. You're more fluid today." Fluid. The word wrapped around me like silk. I didn't protest when she handed me new clothes. I didn't argue when she gave me light makeup and said, "Just try it." I didn't resist when she said she wanted to observe me outside the classroom environment. Everything became a blur of secret moments. Her teaching me how to apply lip gloss. Her fixing my hair with careful fingers. Her smiling when I got a gesture right. And my heart kept betraying me. I wasn't supposed to enjoy this. But part of me did. Part of me wanted more. One evening, as I stood in front of the lab mirror, transformed into something soft and feminine, she stepped behind me. "Look at yourself," she whispered. I did. "You see it too, don't you?" My lips parted. "See what?" "The version of you that feels right." I didn't deny it. I couldn't. Everything exploded on a Friday. A group of students snapped a picture of me in my assistant uniform. My skirt, my soft posture, the lip gloss Miss Morgan had made me wear. By lunch, the whole school had seen it. Whispers became stares. Stares became laughter. Laughter became confrontation. A group cornered me by the lockers. "So you're her little doll now?" One sneered. "Do you even like being a guy anymore? Are you becoming her experiment?" The last word stabbed me. I ran. Straight to the lab. Miss Morgan found me shaking, eyes red, breath broken. "They saw," I whispered. "They all saw." She closed the distance and grabbed my hands. "Look at me." I did. "You can stop any time," she said. "You can walk away. I won't force you." But her voice cracked, just a little. "Do you want to stop?" I swallowed. I don't know who I am anymore. She pressed my hand to her chest, over her heartbeat. "Then let me help you find out." Something inside me collapsed. Walls I didn't know I was holding up. I whispered the words that terrified me. "I don't think I want to stop." Her eyes softened with something warm. Pride? Relief? "Then don't," she said. "Not for them. Not for anyone." She guided me back to the mirror. "Stand tall," she whispered. "You're not a joke. You're not a mistake. You're becoming." I inhaled shakily. She brushed my hair behind my ear. "Let them talk," she whispered. "Let them stare. They're only seeing what you're brave enough to explore." Something inside me clicked. For the first time, I chose the reflection staring back. I wish I could say I refused. I wish I could say I stood up straight, looked Miss Morgan in the eyes, and said something powerful like, "No, this isn't right. I won't do it." But the truth? The truth is much messier, much softer, much more embarrassing. The truth is, I took the clothes. My hands were shaking so badly that the fabric felt like wet paper between my fingers. I kept telling myself, "Just say no. Just put them down. Just walk away." But instead, I found myself stepping into the tiny lab bathroom, closing the door, locking it, and staring at my reflection like I didn't recognize the person in the mirror. The fluorescent lights flickered above me, humming in that way labs always hum, sterile, cold, unforgiving. But the clothes in my arms felt warm. Too warm. The blouse was softer than anything I had ever touched. The skirt was neatly folded, its fabric smooth and impossibly light. The stockings. I couldn't even look at those without my ears burning. Why am I doing this? I whispered into the empty bathroom. No answer. Just my heartbeat thumping so loudly I could hear it in my throat. I put one stocking on. It slid up my leg so easily, too easily, hugging against my skin as if it belonged there. My breath caught. My face heated instantly. I felt ridiculous. But there was something else deep under the embarrassment, a tiny stirring in my stomach I didn't want to name. Then the skirt. I stepped into it, pulling it up slowly, hesitating at my hips. It fit. It fit perfectly. I swallowed hard. Finally, the blouse. I buttoned it shakily. The fabric settled against my chest, soft, delicate, and terrifying. When I looked in the mirror again, I froze. Because the person staring back at me didn't look like a joke. They looked different. Softer. Almost gentle. Something about the reflection made my throat tighten in a way I didn't understand. Before I could overthink it, I forced myself out of the bathroom. Miss Morgan's reaction was immediate. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted. For a moment, just a heartbeat, she looked stunned. Then she walked in a slow circle around me, examining me like I was both her student and her creation. "Turn," she said softly. I did. She exhaled when she saw the full look. "Better than I imagined," she murmured. My entire body flushed. Miss, I can't. This is embarrassing, everyone will." "You're my assistant," she said firmly. "You're helping me with a controlled study. And this," she gestured to the outfit, "is part of it." I didn't know what kind of study required me to dress like this. But the way she said it, the confidence in her voice, the focus in her eyes, made it feel like I was stepping into something bigger than embarrassment. But that illusion shattered completely when the lab door opened. 2 students walked in. They froze. I froze. Miss Morgan did not freeze. She stepped behind me, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. "He is my assistant," she said sharply. "Mock him, and you answer to me." My cheeks burned so hot I could barely breathe. The students whispered, exchanged glances, and slipped out, still stunned. The second they were gone, I turned to her, panicked. "Everyone will know. They'll laugh, they'll take pictures. Miss, this isn't normal." She held my shoulders, steadying me. "Then let them laugh," she whispered calmly. "You're learning something they'll never understand." I didn't know what she meant. But the way she said it made my stomach twist. The moment I left the lab, it began. A girl walking past stopped mid-step and stared. 2 boys nudged each other, whispering things they thought I wouldn't hear. A group near the lockers openly turned to look. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my teeth. Eyes followed me everywhere. Some confused. Some amused. Some curious. And that last reaction was somehow the most terrifying. When I reached the classroom, someone muttered under their breath. "Why does he look kind of cute though?" I pretended I didn't hear it. But the words lodged themselves deep inside me, buzzing like a trapped wasp. Cute? Me? No. No, they were wrong. They had to be wrong. But the worst part was, a tiny, traitorous part of me didn't hate it. At lunch, I tried to hide in the corner, tray untouched, head down. But my best friend, Sam, sat across from me, eyes wide. "Dude, what the hell happened to you?" I flinched. "It's for science," I muttered. He stared. "Is she making you do this? Seriously?" I didn't answer. His silence grew heavy. "Do you like it?" The tray rattled as my hands shook. "No. I don't, it's just," she said. But the words tangled and died in my throat. Sam leaned back, studying me. "You don't look like you hate it." My breath faltered. I hated how much that scared me. Every day, she pushed me further. "Walk softer. Hands gentle. Posture straight. Back arched. Shoulders relaxed. No slouching," she said, tapping my spine lightly. "Aesthetics matter." Other teachers started noticing. Some confused. Some disapproving. But none of them questioned Miss Morgan. She carried herself with too much authority. Then one afternoon, she stepped behind me as I washed beakers and whispered, "You've been practicing at home." I froze, water dripping off my fingers. "How did you?" She smiled. "You're more fluid today. More natural." I didn't know whether to feel proud or horrified. The moment that changed everything happened a week later. She entered the lab with a box. Not clothing this time. "Makeup." "Miss Snow." "No, I can't." "You can," she said, "and you will." I sat still as she applied everything with slow, deliberate precision. A touch of foundation. A hint of pink lip gloss. A soft brush of mascara. When she stepped back, her expression turned unreadable. "Look." I did. And my breath cracked in my chest. I didn't look like a boy in girl's clothes. I looked different. Believable. Soft. My reflection felt unreal, like a version of me from a world that wasn't mine. A world where I didn't have to hide anything. Miss Morgan leaned close, her voice warm against my ear. You see it, don't you? I swallowed hard. I don't know. You do, she whispered. You feel it. I didn't deny it. I couldn't. The more she corrected me, the more she dressed me, the more she styled me, the less I resisted. And the more I started to wonder. Why did she choose me? Why did she look at me the way she did? What did she see when she stared at me for those long, quiet, studying moments? And most dangerously, why did I start wanting her approval so badly? The bell rang the next morning, echoing through the hallways like a reminder of everything I wanted to forget, but couldn't. My punishment. My humiliation. My accidental transformation into the assistant my teacher never asked for but clearly enjoyed having around. Miss Aria was already inside the lab when I walked in. Her glasses perched on the edge of her nose. A faint smile tugging at her lips. And that same intimidating confidence radiating from her like she owned the room, and me. Good morning, she said, without looking up. But her smile deepened. She knew I heard it. Good morning, I replied, my voice lower than usual. Miss Aria snapped her laptop shut and finally looked at me. Her eyes scanned me slowly, deliberately, like she was checking if I followed every instruction she gave yesterday. You tied your hair exactly the same way I showed you yesterday, she said. Not a question. An observation. I swallowed hard. Well, you said it looks neater. It does, she answered. Good. I expect neatness every day. I wasn't sure if she meant my appearance, or my obedience. By the second week, my routine was carved in stone. Heavy checkmark arrive before everyone. Heavy checkmark prepare the lab. Heavy checkmark set up equipment. Heavy checkmark replace chemical solutions. Heavy checkmark take attendance for her. Heavy checkmark and follow Miss Aria's rules. Every single one. Some rules made sense. Some felt like power. Some felt like she was studying me. Stand straight, she would say. Speak up. Repeat after me. Don't hesitate. Look at me when you answer. If anyone heard it, they'd think she was training a student. But the way she said it, the tone, the softness, the precision, felt like she was shaping me. Sometimes the room fell silent, and I could feel her eyes on me as I worked. Watching. Evaluating. Measuring reactions the way she measured chemicals. I tried ignoring it. Didn't work. I tried focusing more intensely. Didn't work either. My hands always shook slightly whenever I felt her attention on my back. Not from fear, but from something stranger. Like curiosity mixed with pressure, mixed with something I didn't understand. It happened in the third week. A new experiment. A more complicated setup. A chain reaction involving thermal changes and catalysts. Assist me closely, she said. Her voice unusually soft. We stood together at the workstation. Too close. So close I could hear her breathing. Feel the warmth of her sleeve brushing mine whenever she reached forward. Hold the flask steady, she said. Her hand closed over mine, guiding my grip. I froze. She didn't move her hand away. Her touch was firm but warm, precise but gentle, almost deliberate. You're shaking, she whispered near my ear. Her voice slid across my skin like electricity. I'm not used to this, I said weakly. Then follow my lead. She guided my hand again. Slow. Controlled. Her breath brushing my cheek. Good, just like that, keep holding. Her words weren't just instructions. They were stabilizers, like she was calibrating my entire nervous system. When the reaction happened, blue liquid shifting violently into deep purple, I gasped. Miss Aria didn't. She leaned closer and said, see? You do much better under pressure when I'm guiding you. Her words sank somewhere deep, past reason, past logic, past resistance. I didn't know if I should feel proud or owned. After that experiment, everything changed. Miss Aria began trusting me with more. But trust came with strings. She gave me her personal checklist. Her personal organizational system. her personal responsibilities. And with each day, it felt less like I was assisting, and more like she was training me for something bigger. "Why are you teaching me all this?" I asked cautiously one morning. She turned around slowly, expression unreadable. "Because I see potential in you." "Potential for what?" "You'll understand at the end of the month," she said. Then she smiled that mysterious, intimidating smile again. "But for now, just follow every instruction." She didn't give me a choice. She never did. And the strangest part? I listened every time. Whispers started. Not the casual gossip kind. The observing patterns kind. Why is he always with her? Why does he even come in early? Why does she always call him instead of TAs? Why is he always standing next to her like they're a team? A group of students even asked me directly, "Bro, how did you become her assistant?" I shrugged. "You're lucky," another said. "She never lets anyone near her experiments." I laughed awkwardly. Lucky? If only they knew. But they didn't. No one did. Only I knew how strict she was. How intense. How focused. How closely she watched me. How she pushed me toward a standard only she understood. No one saw how she pulled me aside after class. Or how she corrected my posture. Or how she made me redo tasks until they were perfect. Or how she stood too close when teaching me delicate work. It was our secret dynamic. Unspoken. Undeniable. And it grew stronger every day. It happened on a Friday. I had messed up. A single measurement. Just 0.7 milliliters off. But in science, tiny mistakes can ruin hours of work. The reaction failed. The entire experiment collapsed. I panicked. My hands trembled. I couldn't even look at her. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. I wasn't focused, Stop," she said sharply. I froze. She walked closer. Her steps slow. Precise. Almost too calm. "Look at me." I lifted my head reluctantly. Her eyes weren't angry. Not disappointed. Not cold. They were something else. Something piercing. Like she was studying my reaction more than the failed experiment. "You're overwhelmed," she said gently. "I'm just tired." "No. You're overwhelmed because you're trying too hard to impress me." My breath caught. "What? I'm not, I just." "You want to meet my expectations." Her tone softened. "And that's not a bad thing." I blinked, unable to form a reply. She stepped closer, too close. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But don't ever fear making mistakes in front of me." My heartbeat thumped loudly in my ears. She placed her hand on my shoulder. Light. Warm. Reassuring. "I'm not here to punish you," she said. "I'm here to shape you." That sentence hit deeper than anything she had said all month. Shape me? Into what? I didn't have the courage to ask. After that day, she treated me differently. Not softer. Not nicer. Just closer. She trusted me with her advanced journals. She let me prepare reactions she normally wouldn't let anyone near. She corrected me more gently. She explained more deeply. She began talking to me while working, about atoms, about human behavior, about pressure, and surprisingly about me. "You work differently from other students," she said one afternoon. "You follow instructions intensely. You learn through discipline. You're persistent." I stayed still, pretending her words didn't affect me. They did. "And," she continued, "you react to direction better than you realize." Was she hinting at something? Testing me? Or just stating another scientific observation? I couldn't tell. But I knew one thing. Whatever she was doing, whatever she was planning, whatever she was shaping me into, I was already too deep to turn back. 1 week left. 1 week until I was free from this punishment. 1 week until I no longer had to wake up early, prepare her lab, organize her experiments, or stand beside her absorbing every instruction. But a strange emotion began forming. Not relief. Not anticipation. Something else. Something like, fear of losing this new bizarre connection. Fear of losing her attention. Fear of going back to being just another student in her class. I shouldn't have felt that. I didn't want to feel that. But I did. And then, on the last Thursday, Miss Aria called me aside after school. No one else was there. The room was dim. Quiet. Still. She stood in front of me, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Tomorrow is your last day as my assistant," she said softly. I nodded. "Are you relieved?" I hesitated. Too long. Her eyebrow lifted. "You don't seem relieved." I swallowed. "I got used to this. To learning like this." She smirked faintly. "Good. Then you're ready for tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" "Yes," she said, stepping even closer. "Tomorrow, I'll tell you what this entire month was really about." My heartbeat stopped. She leaned in slightly. Her voice barely a whisper. "And what I've actually been training you for." The next morning didn't feel like a normal day. It didn't feel like school. It didn't feel like routine. It felt like a countdown. My last day as Miss Aria's assistant. I entered the lab earlier than ever, but she was already there. Not in her usual coat. Not at her laptop. Not preparing an experiment. She was standing in the center of the room, arms behind her back, as if she'd been waiting for me. "Good," she said softly as I entered. "You're on time." Her voice was different. Calm, but serious. Warm, but heavy. Like she was about to deliver something that would change everything. "Come here," she said. I stepped closer, my heartbeat drumming painfully. Miss Aria exhaled slowly. "Do you know why I chose you as my assistant?" My mouth opened, but no words came out. She nodded. "Exactly. You don't know. And that's why today is important." She walked to the desk drawer and pulled out a slim, leather-bound folder. "This," she said, holding it up, "is the real experiment." My eyes widened. "I thought the experiment was for punishment," I said quietly. "Because I broke school equipment." "That was the excuse," she replied. "But not the reason." She placed the folder on the table. "Sit." I obeyed before my brain even processed it. She noticed. Of course she did. She always noticed. She opened the folder. Inside were pages of notes, handwritten, detailed, meticulous. Graphs. Charts. Observations. Observations. About me. My breath caught. At the top of one page. Subject reactivity study, behavioral response under directed learning. Subject? Reactivity? Behavioral response? I looked up stunned. What is this? Miss Aria folded her arms. "For the past month," she said slowly, "you haven't been assisting in my experiment." My heartbeat stopped. You were the experiment. A cold rush washed through me. What? Why? What did I? She pressed a finger lightly to my lips. "Don't panic. Let me explain." My thoughts scattered in all directions, but I forced myself to breathe. Miss Aria walked behind me and spoke calmly, like she was giving a lecture. "For years, I've been studying something most teachers ignore, how different students learn under different forms of pressure." I blinked. Pressure. Guidance. Precision. Routine. Expectation. She stepped back in front of me. "And you responded to all of it better than anyone I've studied." "I didn't volunteer for this," I said, voice cracking. "No, you didn't." Her expression softened. "But I never forced you." I froze. "You agreed every single day. You showed up willingly. You followed instructions without resistance. You worked harder than any student I've ever seen." She sat across from me, leaning forward. "That's why you're the final subject. The one I wasn't expecting. The one who adapted the fastest." Her words wrapped around me like a net, tight, undeniable. I swallowed, voice barely a whisper. "So, what exactly were you studying?" Miss Aria flipped to another page. 4 words were written at the top. Pressure-driven transformation response. Transformation? She noticed my confusion and smiled slightly. Not physical transformation, she said. Behavioral. Mental. Academic. She tapped the paper. I wanted to see how a student changes when given structure, discipline, consistency, and attention. Attention. That word hit too deeply. You changed more than anyone. I shook my head. I just followed instructions. No, she cut in gently. You evolved. She listed it out, calmly, factually. You arrived earlier. You became more organized. You stopped hesitating when speaking. You learned faster. You improved your accuracy. Your stress reactions stabilized. Your confidence rose without you noticing. I stared at her, stunned. She wasn't praising me. She wasn't mocking me. She was telling me the truth, the scientific truth she had recorded about me, piece by piece. And your reaction to guided pressure, she said slowly, is rare. I swallowed hard. What does that mean? She leaned forward. It means you don't crumble under pressure. You don't resist it. You adapt to it, beautifully. My chest tightened. Something complicated twisted inside me, part pride, part confusion, part fear. So this whole month, I whispered, all the instructions, all the corrections, all the routines, all the times you stood behind me, all the things you made me redo. She nodded. Yes, all of it was part of the study. I stared down at the folder. So, it's over now? Miss Aria closed the folder slowly. No, she said. It's not over yet. My head shot up. What? You said this was the last day. It is. She walked toward the center of the room. But a month-long experiment only matters if the final test confirms the results. My stomach flipped. What final test? She turned to me, eyes sharp but warm. The test is simple, she said. I need to see if your growth stays when I remove the routine. Remove the routine? She nodded. For one day, I won't guide you. I won't correct you. I won't give you instructions. I stared at her, breath uneven. And I want to see what you choose to do, when no one tells you what to do. My heartbeat hammered. And what if I walk out? What if I don't want to be part of this anymore? She smiled softly. Then you walk out. No consequences. The experiment ends. And if I stay? Her eyes softened deeply. Then you prove that your transformation wasn't forced. Silence filled the room. Thick. Heavy. Electric. She stepped closer. Too close. You prove that you didn't follow me because you had to. Her voice lowered. You prove you followed me because something in you wanted to. My breath caught. The air grew impossibly still. Miss Aria walked to the door, opened it, and stepped outside. Your test starts now, she said. If you leave the classroom, the experiment ends. If you stay, you choose your own next step. Then she closed the door behind her, leaving me alone in the silent lab. For the first time in a month, my hands weren't being guided. My posture wasn't being corrected. My tasks weren't being assigned. No instructions. No expectations. No guidance. Just me. Just my choice. I stared around the room. The workstation we shared. The equipment I learned to handle. The seat she always sat on. The notebooks she gave me. The experiments she taught me. The space where she stood behind me, guiding my hands. The entire month, flashing in front of me. And without realizing it, I stayed. Not because of punishment. Not because of obligation. But because something had changed in me, something she had seen before I did. I walked to the workstation. Settled in. Prepared the setup exactly how she taught me. My hands didn't shake. My breathing didn't waver. My focus didn't scatter. I wasn't acting like a student. I was acting like her assistant. Because I chose to. I didn't even hear the door open again. But I felt her presence. Her quiet inhale. Her soft exhale. Her footsteps behind me. When I turned, she was standing there, proud, satisfied, and something unspoken in her eyes. "You stayed," she whispered. I nodded. "I stayed." She walked closer, her voice low. "Then the experiment is complete." My heart pounded. "And the result?" I asked. She smiled, the warmest smile she had ever given me. "The result," she said softly, "is that you were never meant to be my assistant." I blinked. "What?" "You were meant to be something more." "What more?" She leaned close enough that her breath brushed my skin. "My student protégé," she whispered. "My research partner. My chosen apprentice." My eyes widened. "You want me to continue working with you?" She nodded. "If you want it to." And for the first time, the choice was truly mine. I inhaled deeply, and I said the only answer that felt right. "Yes." Miss Aurea extended her hand. "Then," she said with a faint smile, "our real work begins now." And I took her hand, not as punishment, not as pressure, but as choice. As transformation. As the final result of an experiment that changed everything.